how was your day today? John DCQR reporting from somewhere in Toronto. Yes, I know I promised myself that I wouldn't do any more about Wikileaks. However, since the whole issue will not simply drop dead, I felt obligated to make another Wikileaks video for the simple reason because there's just too much rumor mongering, too much puffing up Assange as some sort of hero. He really is not a hero, but people insist on making him one. But, when I was checking around the internet and from my own research that I already did, I discovered that it was a definite possibility that Wikileaks is a very clever psychological operation or a Hegelian dialectic. So why not? I might as well just do another video about it. I might ruin it, but hey, what the heck? I might as well give the reasons why it is a successful psychological operation. So I'll just call this video Psychological Warfare 101 because that's what it precisely is, a psychological warfare operation with, one of the main goals is war with China. And I will give my reasons shortly. Oh yes, Wikileaks. Is it a clever PsyOps? Lyndon LaRouche once said when he was questioned about his connections to the CIA that he replied that anyone working in the media without connections to any intelligence agency is as rare as a dodo bird. Yep. Let's look at Wikileaks and I'll give my reasons why it's a successful psychological warfare operation. Reason number one. Assange provides various mainstream publications with so-called advanced information so they could break their stories and make people think that it's groundbreaking news. Some that the press services have done for many, many years. But it sounds nice and attractive, doesn't it? And he gets to be caught, the most publicized rebel. And, the result gets created. A wonderful anti-establishment credibility for failing mainstream publications. But they pump out to bullshit, Wikileaks and other wire services provide. Yes, and being that, given Assange credibility, it makes the mainstream media look like mouthpieces for big corporations and power elites. There's some that people didn't already know. But it's a wonderful show, especially when people's apathy and tendency to have short memories comes into being. Yep, and which goes into reason number, which kind of sort of goes into reason number 2. Yes, information is that if you actually do read some of the stuff Wikileaks comes out, one thing you notice is that the information bluntly characterizes foreign leaders and often in a snide or patronizing manner. It's like they don't, yep, no, they're the ones that are lazy, corrupt, and they don't really care about fighting terrorism or for whatever reason, or serve American interests or other power groups. And a result of that, it's supposedly to be terrible for U.S. diplomatic corps, or is it? To get their opinions on world leaders out in the open forum. Is that a threat to American security? Of course not. They could slant it in any way they like. They could even make them look bad. Yes, and not only they get their opinions out in the open, foreign leaders themselves have no way to respond, and they feel like, and they go acute, and they feel like they have no way to respond. No way to respond, and everybody talks this, that, and it's a great way to justify the Hegelian dialectic, and it create the appearance that things so in the diplomatic corps would be done, which I'll get into the third reason, that if you also read the documents, the U.S. diplomatic corps is shown as pleading with allies for more responsibility and less support for terrorism. Meaning serve the U.S. government, Vatican, and the European Union and other powerful elites. And the result, a perception that and it also creates a perception that Americans seem to be fighting a valiant uphill battle against foreign leaders that don't care about freedom and democracy and all that other crap. The world is encouraging terrorism, and Foggy Bottom is doing its level best to protect the American people, along with the Justice Department, the CIA, the Department of Homeland Security, and all that other and all the other government agencies in America and around the world. And one thing noticeable about WikiLeaks is they say things that aren't too complimentary towards Russia or to China. Sort of like to create the fear that they're hacking into systems, they're preparing for war, they're victimizing former Soviet bloc states, they're promoting imperialism, while of course the U.S. government does the same thing. But very few people are actually going to pay attention to that. Yes, and also they say that the Chinese are suspected of hacking U.S. computer systems. Well, I'll tell you one thing. If, the United States Justice Department sold software like Promise and Echelon, which would have been a load of crap because they have backdoors to all that software, and they would know exactly what the Chinese were doing, which is why recently the Chinese government complained about WikiLeaks. Yes, and Assange is also connected to Chinese dissidents that are connected to the U.S. government and the Kuomintang, but that's another matter. And the result of all of this is not a black eye for the Anglosphere standpoint because they want the Chinese to cause a global conflict. And Wikileaks is another way of saying that the Chinese are the bad guys. And therefore, it's not exactly negative for the Anglo-American establishment, you go, and other power elites. And of course, that the U.S. Embassy is using its agents for spying. Surprise, surprise. Tell me some that I didn't know. And it also creates a false impression that the U.S. government is putting forth all sorts of efforts to keep the American people safe from terrorism. And it gives also the impression that diplomacy is an ugly business. It's rough, it's brutal. And people shouldn't be hindered in their business. Okay. And another factor that came out of this line is, if you read some of the documents, that Iran seems to be winning in Iraq. And U.S. military and diplomatic correspondents seem to indicate that. Heck, the U.S. government has almost complete lockdown of Iran since 1953. They can decide which leaders will rule, which leaders will be overthrown, and what kind of system of government, Iran is going to have. And a concern in Iraq, the U.S. government wanted Iraq destroyed a long time ago because an independent Iraq was considered a hindrance to their plans. Just look at their actions. And of course, oil is intertwined in it. And they want to keep competition out, but that's a topic for another discussion. And this also gives the impression that Iran needs to be stopped. And we gotta listen to what Iran needs to be stopped. And we need to set up Israel to go do the bombing. And we'll just put it as, we gotta protect Israel's right to exist. And of course the U.S. government wants Israel destroyed as well. But that's a topic for another discussion. And also with the Wikileaks cables, they're also saying that the Saudi government wants Iran bombed too. Heck, of course they wouldn't have a problem being the sole controller of OPEC. Of course, with the big oil companies' supervision. But that's the perception people get. Yes. Yes, and the result of that is perception is increasingly clarified that the internet is a dangerous instrument that must be brought under control so people like Assange don't abuse it. Yes, and so the CIA and other intelligence agencies could do what they want. In reality, the guys running WikiLeaks are a part of the scam, which I'll get into more of that later. And speaking of Assange, this is the perception in the media. Who is this man Assange? His actions are questionable to say the least. And he may be a rapist, and according to Swedish prosecutors, and of course charges always get dropped, supposedly due to lack of evidence, or more likely intervention from more powerful organizations. But of course none of that was true, and even if it was, it would have been dropped anyways, for the simple reason that it's a great psychological operation. But it still creates the impression that anyone that the perception is increasingly clarified that the internet is a danger instrument. I made a mistake. Oh, yeah, the result. We begin to see that he is in fact quite obviously and evidently a sexual pervert. Of course, none of that is true, but it rubs off to other conspiracy researchers, truthers, and other people who actually expose real government corruption. And also, if they really wanted if the Justice Department really wanted to railroad Assange, they would have done so a long time ago. Take a guy named Rodney Stitch. For decades, he was trying to, trying to expose corruption in the Federal Aviation Administration, and every branch of the U.S. government blocked him, and they even financially destroyed him, gave him diesel therapy, but no one ever talks about that. It's best that you get his book, The Fraud in America, and you'll see what I mean. Oh yes, and there was and also another perception that only a pervert would seek to do this kind of damage to the national security of the U.S. That's us, by the way. At the internet attracts perverts, threatens the jobs of soldiers to kill more Taliban, and generally threatening the lives and reputations for those who support American serial wars and their genocidal campaigns. Or that's at least what the U.S. government wants people to think, so they would either treat him as a criminal, or they'll blindly stand up to him, which is or blindly stand up for him, which is unfortunately the case. Oh yes. And there's all sorts of media that actually supports it. Heck, even the leaked Wikileaks cables are available on Amazon.com. And it created so they initially sold it, and then they were apparently told to remove it, and they resold it again, which is of course a load of crap, because they promote all sorts of books, and the reason they did that is, you gotta promote your assets. And more promotion for CIA assets. Okay. Oh yes, and there was another note, and one of the more recent studies I noticed is what WikiLeaks has said about Royal Dutch Shell. And one of them, there was documents that Shell feared losing 80% of Nigeria's oil acreage, and another, and of course that's a peak oil, another promotion of the peak oil scam because we need to secure what little oil we have. And of what little oil we have, of course, he never quite mentioned about, the big business deal Royal Dutch Shell has with a Swedish oil company to operate in Basra, and the deals with Russia, not to mention the fact that Shell Oil has long connections to the British royal family and British intelligence, and it was Royal Dutch Shell that of course came up with peak oil. Heck, they hired Hubbard to create the scam called Hubbard's Peak, and of course to promote nuclear energy. And also, heck, the British always had control of Nigeria since they conquered the country. Oh, and it's another little note. Yes, that Scientology was gonna threaten WikiLeaks over document leak. Oh. So in effect, Scientology also supports WikiLeaks in one way or another. They're promoting them too. Heck, Scientology, that's another organization that has long connections to the American intelligence agencies. Heck, its founder L. Ron Hubbard worked for the Office of Naval Intelligence during World War II. But I'll talk about that another time. Oh, and even all sorts of government agents are talking about it. Oh yes, or at the time when a Harvard law professor says that we need to protect WikiLeaks. How dare Amazon and PayPal shut them down while they keep accounts of the KKK. I'll leave the videos to watch all in the links in the description box. Yes, and one thing I found also quite remarkable is even David Duke. Yes, the former head of the Ku Klux Klan, U.S. military, former CIA asset when he was working for Air America in Laos, saying this, that WikiLeaks exposes corruption, but he puts it in a slant, saying that WikiLeaks exposes Zionist treachery. Yes, and all that other crap. I could show you the video, but I'll leave the video on the links below. And I know I spent a little too much time babbling on, but I know I spent a little too much time babbling on, but I had to put more of my opinion explaining why WikiLeaks is not the free and it is not the David and Goliath is not the David that we are led to believe. Yes, I have lots of things to do. I'm glad you listened. You have yourself a good day.